Cool.
Sorry, I can't
Today I'm going to introduce three concepts. Trying to escape. One of them is the if statement, which is probably the most formidable one that we'll be dealing with in this course. If you were to take a program and just write down like a recipe, just do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this till it was over, you wouldn't actually need much logic. You just simply say, tell it what to do. It's like just giving it instructions. But there is the if statement in programs which actually breaks up that monotony of that litany. What happens is you have instruction, 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 and then it says, well, if a certain thing is true, do this, otherwise do that. And what happens is the program then breaks up into something that's got logic in it. You have to actually know what you're doing when you set up these if statements. So what I'd like to show you today is how to use the if statement to make decisions. You've probably all seen these someplace, one place or another. If you use spreadsheets, you've seen them wherever. But I'd like to show you how they work in JavaScript, because we'll be using them quite a bit in future programs. To begin with, let me get a piece of chalk here to start off. The if statements that we're using are all in JavaScript. That we don't use any in HTML. They're all in JavaScript, okay? So I'm going to write a program that's just simply going to have an if statement in it. All it's going to do is it's going to ask the person who's using the computer to enter two words, a word and another word. And then what it's going to do is it's going to look at those two words to see if they're the same word, or if one is alphabetically higher on the list than the other one, or alphabetically lower on the list than the other one. So what's all it's going to do is say, they're going to introduce two words, and they're going to say, is this word the same as that one, or is it bigger than it, or is it smaller in it? And bigger and smaller is where it lies on the alphabet, not how many letters there are. So let me just start. Try it again. Okay. So let me write that program. It starts off with. Another thing I'm going to do, by the way, as I progress today, I'm going to get down to where I don't have to write the entire programs again and again. I've done that quite a bit, and you kind of see how they work. What I'm always worried about is when someone starts to write a program, do they know where to start and how to do it? And I get a lot of people who they just can't start the program. So therefore, I'm just starting them over and over again to show you what's going to happen. But essentially what I really want to do is I want to show you how the JavaScript works. So what I'll do is I'll write an overall program, and then we'll work on the JavaScript. I may change the code in here and leave the HTML code the same. In other words, they'll be seeing the same things, but when they get into the JavaScript, it'll do a different job for them, okay? So I'm going to try to do that as much as possible. My writing, read that here. Okay. And there's going to be a function here, and let me start writing the body of the thing just to get it out of the way. I'm also going to make the virtual screen, this thing right here, a little bit bigger, because I discovered when I looked at it online that I couldn't write. I was making these little rectangles and they weren't big enough. You couldn't see the writing. So I want to be able to write on the screen what we're going to see. So I'm going to make these a little bit bigger. And hopefully the HTML code won't be so bad. What I could do is down here I could say /head. I'm going to put the other stuff up in here, by the way. I haven't moved all this other stuff. And then I'll put body right here. So even that line will be out of the way. So whatever I write in here is actually in the body. That's the way it will be. because it'll just carry on. Okay. So what I want to do on my screen is I want to say to the person, enter 2 words. And I'll have a space for one of them here, and a space for one of them here. And then we'll have a button here that they'll click. And then it will give them a message over here. What's going to happen is they're going to enter a word and a word and click the button, and then it's going to give a message. And what the message is going to be, it's going to be the 2 words are the same word, or the first word is alphabetically bigger than the second word, or the second word's alphabetically bigger than the first word. No, basically what it's going to do is it's going to say, it's going to compare the 2 words. It's going to say, is this word exactly like this one? Or is it alphabetically lower on the list, or is it alphabetically higher on the list? That's all it's going to do. It's just going to compare the word for the 3 possibilities. Okay? And when you enter the 2 words, any 2 words you want, when you click there, it'll give you that answer over there. Okay? So let me write the first version of that thing. I'm going to have a function. Sorry, this is wrong. Sorry, we're not good. Well, like I need a sorcerer's apprentice here or something. And I'll call it alpha. And I'm going to receive 2 words. I'm going to receive this word here, which I'm going to call in1, and I'm going to call that one in2. So I'm going to receive them up here, and I'm going to give them the names A and B. Don't forget, I always write capitals in every case. In this case right here, I'm a little bit nervous about it because I want you to be sure that you don't put capital A in there and capital B. I want a lowercase in here. I'm going to write it the way I normally do because it makes more sense. But basically, you want to have something, a variable, comma, and another variable where the thing comes in. Okay. Start the function here. The if statement. What the if statement does is it compares 2 things to each other. And based on what it finds out, it does something. So for example, I got two strings coming in here. By the way, they call these strings because strings are just words, okay? There's numbers and strings. These are strings. Because everything that comes out of here is text, which means it's a string. In the last class, we converted one of those strings to a number by using capital N-U-M-B-E-R. That was a conversion into a number. So strings are what you work with. In this case right here, we got strings coming up. So I'm going to write the if statement first and show you what happens. If A is equal to B. What I'm saying here, if A and B are the same, and notice there's 2 equal signs in there. That's essential. Don't put 1 equal. If you put 1 equal, it's going to do something entirely different. It's not going to compare the 2. I want to say if A is equal to B, what I'm saying, I'm asking the question, are these 2 guys the same? That's how you do that. You say, are these 2 guys the same? And if they are, what you can do is you can open up one of these guys, and everything that's within these braces is going to be done. If this is true, it'll do everything inside these braces right here. So I could say out1, which would be this right here. This is out1 right here. Dot value equals they are equal. Like so. There should be a semicolon at the very end over here after the quote marks. But if you left it out, it wouldn't be, and I guess you better put it in to be sure, because some browsers might not like it if you leave it out. So put that semicolon right there. So here's what happens here. It comes down into the program, and it looks at A and B. It compares the 2 of them. And if those 2 guys are exactly the same, uppercase, lowercase, every part is exactly the same, what it's going to do is it's going to go over here and do whatever you told it to do. In this case, all I'm telling it to do is to put these words right here and out1 dot value. So right here, it's going to say they're equal. They are equal, like that. That's all it's going to do. If this is true. If this is not true, it won't write anything in there. it won't write any phrase. So in other words, it either goes over there and does that, or it drops through. If this is not true, it just drops through and does the next instruction. So if I just went like this, just into this thing and went /script, and scrap ahead. If I just did that, the way this program would work, it would be kind of a simple-minded program. You simply type two words in here. If you type the same word in both places, it would come through and say, is A equal to B? It is. It would put over here the are equal. And that's all this program would do. It wouldn't do anything else. That's it. Wouldn't ask if they're bigger or smaller or anything. Okay? What you can do is, if it fails that test, what you can do is, if it fails that test, you can ask it something different. You can ask if it's bigger. You can ask if alphabetically, the first word is alphabetically bigger than the second one. Here's how you do it. You say, well, if A is greater than B, that's a symbol right there. That means that's that little right-hand, we could call it a chevron, I think. That's the greater than symbol on your keyboard. You can ask if that's true. And if it is, what you can say is, alt1.value equals, quote, first is greater than, I'm just going to put GT for greater than second. This, that. So what I now have two if statements. If this one is true, it'll print out that. If this one is true, it'll print out that. So basically put those words into that box over there. And that's how the if statement works. And then you have the one where it's, so what happens is, for example, if you put down banana in the first position and apple in the second position, yes, that'll be true, because banana is higher on the alphabet than apple is. And that's what would happen. Okay? And the third one, the third test we want to do is this. If it doesn't get any of those two, you can say, well, if A is less than B, you can say, one dot value equals first, oops, is less than second. Like that. And there it is. Finish the thing. There it is. Like that. That's it. That's the program. What that program will do now is if you put in any two words, it will actually compare the two, see if they're the same. And if they're the same, it'll say they're equal. If the first one is bigger than the second one, alphabetically, it'll say it's greater than. If it's less than, it'll say it's less than. Now here's an interesting thing about this, which is kind of a curiosity. There are only three possibilities in an ordered alphabet. Okay. So what happens is you can only be equal to, less than, or greater than. That's all you can be. There's no other possibilities, are there? There isn't any other possibility. So, for example, there is a way of, I can say, is this true, is this true? And at this point right here, if the other two didn't take, I can just do the third one. I can just simply say, this right here, because that would be true at that point. But here's where the problem comes in. Here's where the trouble with it. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, if this is true and this is true, all I have to do is simply say alt1 value equals blah, 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 the third answer. But here's what the problem with it is. If supposing that this one's true right here, and it says they're equal, what would happen is, that would be in there, the correct answer would be in there, but then when it hit this one, it would replace the correct answer with a wrong answer. See, if you just put it there without any kind of if statement in there. Does that make sense to you? Because logically, what happens is we've logically said, is it equal? Is it greater than? Is it less than? That works, because you're testing for every single one, and the one that actually works, we'll put it in the proper position. If I got rid of this right here and just wrote alt1 value blah, 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 and got rid of this if statement right here, yes, this would work, but the problem with it would be, whatever one, if it was any one of these up here, it would replace it, but then you substitute and would ruin what you just did.
At the end of that last if statement, less than, what is that?
Second, oh, two indeed, sorry. I'm trying to save space on it. Please, if you see anything you can't read, tell me, because it's because I'm either klutzy today, which I seem to be for some reason,
So when we type in first is greater than second or less than second in those commands in the out one value, are we just, should we actually put the symbol or should we actually write it out?
Oh, you could write anything you please.
Quotes.
Anything that's in quotes over here is what you want to write. That's up to you.
Okay,
These
so
are
we
just
could
words.
replace that symbol GT with the actual greater than.
Yeah, with greater than, sure.
Okay.
And anything that I put inside the comments that are going in here, those are just words, and it doesn't make,
Okay.
there's no, there's no
So you
rules.
can
in it.
write out second or just write 2ND.
Yeah.
whatever
The only thing
you
you might have to do is you might have to use the with command and tell in a style sheet in the input. When I'll do the inputs over there. Sometimes you have to increase the width because you might be wanting, at this point especially, you're going to be putting a lot more words than the normal width is probably, I don't know, a couple hundred pixels or something. I don't know what it is. They have it fixed to some length. And what we'll do is, it might vary a little bit, but what we say, we'll put 600 pixels in the width, and it will go like that. So then the words, as you see, will all, in other words, this thing over here can vary in its length. You can vary, any of these guys can be varied in width just by telling it to change the width, and it will open up that bigger and smaller, get more letters in it, so you can see more. If I were you, and this kind of an answer right here, where you might get a lot of words in here, I would put a BR after that click, or maybe before it. And then what would happen is it would have this here, then it would have click, and then that thing over here. So in other words, you can make a bigger one that isn't going to bump into anything. That's the trouble. One of the things that happens is if you don't put any line breaks, BRs into the thing, it just goes right across the screen until it wraps, and then it wraps down. But it might wrap in a bad spot. It might have the click thing over here and the answer over here. That's awkward. You usually like to have the click and the answer right next to each other. So you might want to, rather than let it just wrap accidentally and put this down by itself, you might want to break it right here, which we can do, in which case it'll throw both of these down to the next line, and that'll be very nice. And there'll be plenty of room for adding the things. Let me write the program itself. So basically now I have to write a program that says enter 2 words, gives them 2 inputs, have a click as an input, and have an output as an input. I just have to put that stuff in, okay? And it looks like this. I can say, I said body right here, so I'm in the body now. And so I can say, just write on the thing, I can just say enter 2 words. Like that. Don't have to do anything else. Put a space, maybe. Put a space here. And now I want to put this input right here. So now I have this first one, right? Now I gotta put the second one in. Right here. Yeah. And now I have to put the button which says click on it. Then I'm going to put this in the next line, the on-click thing down the next line, but it would just really simply go right across there. You just keep typing, okay? On-click. You understand what I'm saying? You have a problem with that? Well, I want to go to this function right here, alpha. And, this is in parentheses, and I want to send in1 and in2 up here. So I say in1 dot value, comma, in2 dot value, close quote this, oops, wrong one, this. So now what I have is 3 things. I have this here, I have these words, this input statement, in1, this input statement for in2, the click, the button, it says click on it. And now I want to put the last thing in over here, which is input. 1. Type equals text. Text. There. Slash body. Slash HTML. There it is. That's the whole program. So what that should do now is, if you put the same word in both places, it'll say they're equal. If the first word is greater than the second, so for example, if you put in piton and banana, piton's higher in the alphabet, so then this one would hit. It would say the first is greater than the second. If you put in, letter A and letter B, A would be less than B. That's all you put in. What it will simply do is it'll alphabetize the stuff for you, lay them out in order. Okay. Does that kind of make sense to you? Does anything about this that's weird?
So this goes in between the function down there and the...
This goes like that.
Okay. So it says script, head, body, and then all that.
Yeah, that's the body part right there. The body's always the stuff that the person's looking at. All the stuff over here, the way I'm going to work on the board is this stuff's going to be invisible to the user. It's going to do all the work, but they're not going to see it. It's going to be behind the scenes. So everything from script down to slash script is that's our stuff. And what they see is that over there. Okay. Does that look pretty good to you? Question?
When you wrote enter 2 words, are we actually writing that in the body?
Yeah, you write these words. Whatever you just write, it just goes right on the screen.
Oh, so we're not actually writing the words, enter 2 words.
Yeah, we're writing the words into 2 words.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it comes right on the screen.
Okay.
What you see is this right here. As soon as you write these they come right up on the screen, just like that.
Cool.
Remember, whatever you write, unless you put one of these little weird guys in front of it, it just goes on the screen. Everything else just goes on the screen. One of these guys says, oh wait, this is a command, so don't put that on the screen. So you got to be careful of that. Okay, so far so good? You got that? Okay, now, let's talk about numbers. Okay, numbers, all your life, you probably have never realized that numbers and words are quite different when you sort them. They're really made very differently. What happens is, numbers are sorted by pushing them all to the right. I'm going to prove this to you. Let me just start to give you a proof of what would happen that would be weird for us. Supposing the first word I put in right here was 60, and the second word I put in was 100, like that. And these are seen as these are text. It's text coming in, okay? It turns out that the number 60 will be bigger than 100. If you just look at the characters, it comes out that the 6 is bigger than 1, therefore it's going to be bigger. The reason why is because strings, left justify, they say. That's how they say it, justify. What it means is that if you have words like a banana, apple, xenophon, whatever you have, left justifies, and it looks at these characters to see which one is the biggest. That's how it does it. It looks at the left-hand side. Numbers are totally different. Numbers are pushed to the right. So, for example, if you had this case right here, if you had 60 and 100, here's what happens in this case. It does the same thing. It looks for the first character, only it looks at the right justify. It bumps into the 100 first, as though that's bigger than that is. Because it goes by what's the biggest in the left-hand most column, okay? In this case over here, it would see this one right here. That would be the biggest because it begins with the biggest number, so to speak, the biggest letter, and that's the one that's going to say is the biggest. If I put 60 over here, and as we did, as a string, and as 100 like that, you can see what happens. It looks at these two things and it says, oh, 6 is bigger than 1, therefore it's the bigger of the two. In this case over here, it doesn't see the 6 right away because it comes over, it's right justified. It sees this first, which is a blank right here, by the way. The blank that is very low in the scale looks at 1 and says, well, 1 is the bigger because in this column it's the biggest one. And so you always have to remember that when you have a comparison between two things, you've got to know whether you're dealing with numbers or strings, because they treat them differently. And if you put numbers into a place where you're receiving strings, it won't get them straight for you. It'll mix them up. You'll get mixed up. So always, in this case right here, this program will not work with numbers. That's what I'm trying to get at. So what we have to do is, if we're going to make this thing work with numbers, we can do it, but we have to do an extra step, and I'm going to do that step right now. Okay? So remember, this part right here is okay. It says enter two words. I'm going to change the program to say enter two numbers. Now, if I left the program the same, it would fail. It wouldn't work, because the numbers would be sorted as strings, because we're sorting them. We come into the strings right here, and we're comparing them as strings, okay, which is left justified. So here's what we do. Now what we do is we say, okay, before I compare these two guys, I want to convert them to numbers, because if they're numbers, they will compare correctly. Okay, so here's what you do. I'm going to erase this and rewrite it. I'll write it right up here. So I get some space. Call it alpha. I'm going to give it the same name, but it should be called something different, I think. A, comma, B, like so. Okay, so here's what we got. We got this thing starts off, and it comes in strings. We don't like that. We don't like it strings. So what we do is we say variable A1 equals begin of A. So we convert A1. Now, you can do this, you can do it, and I would advise you not to do it, because it's going to cause you trouble when you start to edit stuff. But you can do this. If you get a semicolon right here, I can write another command right over here. I can say variable B1 equals number again. Capital N right here. Okay, these are capital N's right here. Okay. Then what I do is I can say A1, B1, A1, B1, A1, B1. So what I've done is I've converted A to A1 and B to B1. Now they're both numbers. They've been converted into numbers. Now when it compares them, it compares them as numbers. So in this case, if we put in 60 and 100, it would fail this test right here. 60 would not be greater than 100, but it would pass this test. And therefore it would say to us that the first one is less than the second, which it is. Does that make sense to you? So remember, the difference between strings and numbers is very critical, because they're sorted different ways. One's, as I say, right justified, and the other one's left justified. And so those are the if statements. Now, they have other tests that we can do. I'm going to show you what they are. There's a couple of other tests we can do. I could say, for example, I can ask if something is greater than or equal to at the same time, greater than or equal to. And here's how you do it. I can say if A is greater than or equal to B. And what that does is, if A is greater than B, it will do it. If it's equal to B, it will do it. So in other words, if either one of these is true, it will do whatever you tell it to do over here in the little deal. Okay? It'll do it. I can say if A is, if A is less than or equal to B, and they're going to be in that order. It has to be greater, equal, less equal, like that. Then you can do this over here. So in other words, that's another possibility. You can test two things at once if you want to. That can happen. For example, suppose you wrote a program that it was going to be at the entrance of a Department of Transportation. You were asking somebody if they were old enough to drive. It had to be 60 to 16 driving age these days. They would say, how old are you? And if they said they were 16, your test could be, if they are 16 or older, equal to or greater than 16, then you can get your driver's license. If it fails that test, they can't get it. So in other words, you might want to ask both at the same time. Okay. Next question is the last one. You could say if two things are not equal to each other. That's exclamation point equal. That means if they are not equal to each other. So you can simply test if something's not equal to something else. You don't care if it's bigger or smaller, or you just want to know if it's not equal to it. Okay? Sometimes you're testing for a certain thing, and you just want to get the other out of the way. Now, when it comes to how long it takes the computer to do these tests, It changes from computer to computer, depends whether they have arithmetic processors or not, so you don't even know. In the old days, we used to know how fast it would take to do these, believe it or not. We know how many computer cycles it would take to do it, and we'd figure out, use the one that was the fastest. But today, that doesn't make any difference. So basically, you can choose any of the tests you want. By the way, this test right here, I could actually replace this test with this right here. Now watch, I'm going to take this test, I'm going to replace it down below. I put an if. I can make this exact same test by saying if B1 is less than A1. You see where those two are the same? They're really the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it, that's all. I move the variable and I reverse the symbol. And this one here could be reversed also. I could say if a B1 is greater than A1. I could say it that way. So you can say it in different ways. There's a lot of stuff in there you have to get your head into it when you start doing it, figuring out. But be sure when you do it that you know first of all whether you have a string or a number. That's crucial. And then your logic is what counts. This is where logic fails on a lot of computers. For example, there was a case in Juno years ago when we used to have automatic voting. The voting machine was counting how many votes there were. And the trouble was, when it reached the end, it was supposed to stop and give the total, and then it was supposed to start counting again for the afternoon people or something like that. But it didn't do that. The if statement failed, and it kept adding people more and more. So, Juno got more votes than the rest of the state or something. It was like crazy. It just went right off the edge. So you got to be really careful when you start using these things because your logic has to be perfect. Because if it fails, and I'm going to show you a program today where it fails, and I'm going to show you why it fails, and then show you this is the kind of thing you have to think about. That's where the logic comes in. Everything else we've done pretty much is just do this, do that, do the other thing. Now we're talking about if, and that's a different deal. Okay. Can I get rid of this? Are you happy with this? Question?
So, besides the bottom stuff, I put in everything else with A1 less than B1 and stuff like that. So I should be able to save and all of that in the body. Should be able to save it and run it, and it should look like what's up on that screen,
Yeah.
right?
Whatever you type in.
Ideally.
Well, don't put numbers in. No, that's just this, I don't want it to fail on you, so what you type in here.
Well, I mean, it should show that there's boxes.
Oh yeah, it should show, now you running the first program or the second?
The first one?
The first one's got strings in it though.
Um,
You have A equal B or A1 equal.
A1 equal B.
Okay, so you got numbers. This is the number one, see?
Okay.
So this should be numbers right here.
Okay,
But
yeah.
you'd have to change that right here, which I did. It should be numbers.
And I think I did enter two numbers. Yep.
Okay.
But is it capital numbers down there too, or no?
What? Numbers down here.
Yeah, is that capital?
Well, that's just
And
your words.
numbers?
That's just what you
Oh,
say.
okay.
Remember, anything you say, you can say any way you want. I just, whatever. It's only when you're in these funny little areas here where, you have to be careful about what you write.
So I'm going to try and save that and save for words.
This program's correct, though. I know it'll run, so. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to introduce you to another idea that's sort of an if statement, but it isn't quite an if statement. It's a peculiar statement. Okay, here's what happens. I know what. Let me first rewrite this program so that it asks you a question. It asks you if you are a male or female. Okay, and the person's going to type in male or female. Okay, and when the program runs, it's going to say, if they put in male, it's going to say you are a male, and if they put in female, it's going to say you are a female. Pretty dumb program, but actually it brings out an interesting point. So here's the program. Here's what it's going to look like. It's going to say, are you male or female? And there'll be a place for them to type in, and then there'll be a button, click, and then there'll be the expression you're going to say to them, whatever it happens to be, okay? You are female or you are male. So that's all you see on the screen before it starts. Okay, so let me start off here. On the front page, I'm going to have to change that front page because it doesn't look quite right the way we have it now. I'm going to have the front page say, are you male or female right here. By the the way, these are online. You can actually list them online. They might not be exactly the same, but they're pretty close. Right there. Then you bring in male or female. It's all, you only have one input. That's all you need. That's it, right? You don't need this one. Okay? Because you only have, they ask the question, there's only one input. Right there. And then we have a button. And we'll send it up to, I'll call it alpha again, just who cares? We'll keep the name alpha. Only this time you only have one variable going up to it. You see why I can call it alpha? Because I can call anything I want, right? So, there it is right there. So that's the new input statement. That's what it looks like. And it says, click on it, just like this one does. Okay, you should do that. And then there's the output statement right there. I might have to add some width to it later, but I'll leave it the way it is right now. It's just and that's all it is. So therefore we have an input, a button, and an output, just like we have there. Okay. So, to write the program, I go like this, and I say, well, take the delegate, the function, alpha. That was called? Yeah, the name, okay. And this time I just take in one letter, A. I bring in an A, okay? Now, that A either contains male or female, contains one of those two. So if I say, if A equals, quote, male, unquote. See how I did it? I just said, is it the word male? Only this time I put quotes around the thing because it's not a variable, it's actually a literal. I have to say, this. I want this word to be compared to whether it was in that variable it just came out. If that's true, I say, L1 dot value equals, quote, you are male. Like that. If A equals female, L1 dot value equals you are female. That's it. All there is to it. Okay, now, here's the thing. If you ran this program, you typed in male, it would go down and say, they said male, so it would say you're a male. It would print it out. If it was a female, it would print out you're a female. Okay. But supposing, you never can tell what people are going to do. They drive you crazy when they try to use your programs. Supposing someone wrote in, I am a male. They wrote that whole word, that whole expression in. Well, when you ran the program, it wouldn't find that A would not be equal to male. It would be equal to I am. This would be equal to I am a male. And this would not be equal. In other words, you wouldn't get a hit. There would be no hit. Nothing would happen. So in other words, if they don't write exactly what you want them to write, it's going to fail. And that's why they invented this other thing that I'm going to show you today. Okay? What this thing is a way for you to say, if they use the word male in this sentence any place, is it there? And if it is, in other words, you can ignore everything else they write, but you can find that word male if it's there. Then say, I am a male. You can say, you said you were a male. Okay? And that's the trick. This is a little different than a regular if statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this program here so that it actually will find anyone, if they say male anywhere in the sentence they type in, or the words they type in, it will find it. Okay. Does everybody get this part right here, how this works? This is just a simple if statement. It's pretty much what we did already. Okay, so let's go to work on changing this. There was a thing called the indexOf. It's a special function in JavaScript, and it looks like this. I'm going to say variable. I'm going to call it pos m. I'm giving it this name, pos m. It means position in. Okay, it's just a position of something. I'll explain how it works in a second. equals, this thing right here, A dot index, and this is weird, of, only the O is capitalized, all the rest have to be lowercase or it won't work. Now here's how this works. It's actually one of the cleverer things they've invented in a long way. If you have an expression of any kind, like for example, suppose you can say, I am a male. Supposing that's what they type in. Like that. Every letter that you type in, question,
Finish what you're saying.
every letter that you type in has a position, a character position. And that's what we're trying to find here, is a position. The first one's position 0, and then this space is position 1, and this is position 2, and so forth, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So no, the first position is 0, and all the other positions, so every position has a name, a number associated with it. When I use this indexOf right here, and I put the word male, it goes into the thing and tries to find out where the word male is, if it's there at all. And if it finds it, it gives you back that position right there. It tells you that number comes back to you and goes into here. So now that contains a positive number. If this thing fails, if it does not find the word male, it puts a negative number in there. Remember that. Negative if it fails, or it could put a 0 because you could be at the 0. Male could be right here, for example, if they just wrote male. So in other words, this thing right here, if it comes back after it hits this thing, if it's got a negative number in it, male did not exist. If it has anything else in it, male did exist, and you know you hit it. Question?
So does this index take into account the difference between lowercase and capital letters?
No, it does not.
Okay.
If that's another big problem for that happens a lot of times.
I was playing with the word analysis thing, and so I put in the word apple without a capital letter, then I put in the word apple with a capital letter, and it said that one was greater than the other, and I was like, that's weird. It's the
It
same
has
word.
trouble because the reason why is because capitals are actually separate characters, and they're in a different place. All the lowercase are in one place, and all the uppercase are in another place. They aren't right next to each other or anything. So therefore, in the table of how big characters are, they're in a different spot. Okay. Here's what we do normally. There is a way to actually change everything to lower or everything to uppercase as you got. I usually say change everything to lowercase, so therefore the test is always the same, no matter what they write. Okay, because that's the way to do it. Like, otherwise you end up with that problem exactly. But I'm not going to deal with that right now. It is a technical thing we have to deal with.
Okay.
You have to take into account people. You don't know what they're going to do, and to get down to trying to corner them so they just write what you want them to write. That is a big problem for everybody. Okay, so this right here will test for the word male, okay? Then I'm going to test for the word female. Variable of position F equals A, which is the thing that comes in, dot, I want to find the index of, capital F, not capital O rather, female. Now, provided that they wrote one of these things, at the end of this thing, one of these two guys is going to be switched on, right? And here's where it gets interesting. Okay, now, then what you have to do is you say, well, if this guy is a positive number, then we found male. If this guy is a positive number, then we found female. So that's what we do. We say, well, if this guy right here, POSM, is equal to, quote, male, sorry. Take all that back. I'm doing a previous program here. If POSM is greater than or equal to 0. That's all you have to do. Notice if this is a positive number, you found a male. If this is a positive number, you found a female. So what I do is I say, well, if this number right here is greater than or equal to 0, I must have found a male. Therefore, what I say is, O1 dot value equals you are a male. There it is. And then you got to have a second input, if statement, to find out if this one's the one. So you say if position of F is greater than equal to 0, even if this thing here is greater than equal to 0, it means you found something. In other words, it's a positive number or 0, which means you found them somewhere among the characters. So then you say L1 dot value equals you are female. Down. That should do it. So what this one allows them to do is type in anything they please, and you'll find out they're male or if you find out they're female. Let's go back here. I want to make the computer answer me in words. In other words, I want it to talk to me. And I want it to say, you are male or you are female, depending on what you type in. The only thing here is, in this new situation, I don't need this anymore because there is no out. That's gone. And there is no output right here. All there is you type in what you want to type in, and then what it does is you click the button, and then it says to you, you are male or you are female. It doesn't write it out, it just says it to you. Okay? Now, has anybody looked at this stuff before from some class? Okay, have you looked at any of the programs online? Anybody look at them? There's already a bunch up there that actually do all this. But let me, I want to write it as close as I can to the one I wrote up there so there won't be any confusion about it. Okay. I used in1. Pretty much the same program. That's pretty much okay. Okay, and in this particular one here, don't forget, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow them to say male or female, whichever they want. They can say I am male, I am female, or female or male. They can say any combination they want, and it should work. But what's going to happen this time, instead of the thing saying on the screen, you are male, you are female, it's going to say it to you. It's going to verbally say it to you. Okay? By the way, be sure when you use these programs that you have your speakers turned on. Some people say it doesn't work. You have to turn your speakers. The speakers have to be going to make these things work. Okay, the speaking programs are all very interesting, but okay, so got a function, and the function name in this one is not the same, so I'll use that one there. It's alpha, and I receive something, whatever their answer is right there. Then right away someone forget it. Okay, first thing I want to do, I'm going to make a variable. I'm going to call it pos in. By the way, you can be called anything. I'm saying position male in my brain. That's what I see is pos in like that. I take A, and I take the index of. I want to find the word male. First step. Take the female one, variable, clause F equals A dot index female. Okay. So now you discovered which is which, and just like we did before, do the same thing. I say if pos m is greater than or equal to 0, that means I found a male. What I do now is quite different than what I did before. Last time I put the answer in out 1. Don't want to do that now. This time what I want to do is I want to say the variable message, MSG. You can call it anything you want, but classically people use the word MSG. It's kind of cool. It's a word that we've kind of agreed upon, but you can use any variable name you want in there. It doesn't make a difference. Message. What's going to happen now is we're going to convert the words you are male into verbal words. Now they're going to be spoken words. Okay, to do that by doing the same thing we did in that previous program here. We'll say that here. Let's use new. Don't forget, everything's lowercase except the ones that have got to be uppercase. Each what? Synthesis. Utterance. We're out of space right here. This thing right here, I'm going to put that right here, just so we'll have it. It says you are male. Now here's what happens here. Oops, I got to finish this off. One of those guys. Okay. This thing right here is that thing right there. Okay, I just didn't have room to write it, so I wrote it down. So here's what happens. If there is a male, then this will be true. It'll be bigger than or equal to 0. So what it'll do is it'll take these words, you are male, and it'll put them into the message that's going to be said. So now it's getting ready to say it, okay? If it's a female, you say the same thing, pos f greater than or equal to 0. Same thing as we did before. Variable, this time the message G equals new, same thing, speech, synthesis, same words as these right here. Sorry about that, I can't get them all. But these words right here. I'll call it SSU. Everybody get that? That's what this is right here, all that stuff right there. Okay, so we say SSU, and then we do this. Same thing. In the parentheses, you say you are female. Female. There it is. Close, semicolon, that thing. So this line right here is actually identical to this line right here, except that it says pos f instead of pos in, and down here you put different words in. That's the only change in those two lines. Okay. This one contains you are male, this one contains you are female. Okay, now what you've done is you've loaded up the sound with the correct answer. Then what you do, underneath this, you put in a window. This is where you actually say the thing on your computer. I don't want to screw up like I did last time. Make sure I get everything here. Yeah. W. Speech. Synthesis. Dot. Speak. MSG. Script. Slash head. Body. Okay, this thing's going to be capped right here. That's the only letter where there's cap lines right here. That's a period right there. Okay, so here's how this thing works. The program starts off, so you male and female, they type in whatever they want, you hit the button. Right down here, you hit the button, it goes up to alpha, and it brings in A. Then I say, well, did they say male in A? That will be 0 or plus. Did they say female in A? That will be 0 or plus. Then what I say is, if there's a 0 or plus in M, they said male, so what I do is, I put this message, you are male, into the message. If they said female, I put into the message, I put you are female into this message. So it's the same, the message either contains one or the other. And then down here, no matter which message is in there, I simply say it on the speakers. So if they said male, they're male. If they're female, it's female. And that program will do it for you. So in other words, to make the thing speak, all you need to do is, these two guys right here do the job for you. Because this thing inside the braces actually is the function. It says load the sound up with whatever words you want. And then this one down here, it doesn't have anything around it. It just simply says speak on the window. I'm sure you got that right. No, yeah, I did get it right. This is speech synthesis.speak MSG, like that. Is that readable? Probably not, but it is online. Go ahead.
They both say female. You are female. You are female. Which one is it for male?
You are a male.
It says you are.
You are male.
You are a male.
You are male.
Okay. Or you are male.
Wow.
You are male, just as you are male, jammed
Okay,
together.
you are male. Okay.
I mean,
This is all different.
Anyone that can read Egyptian should be able to read this.
So it looks like there's a closed bracket at the end of you are male and you are
Yeah,
female.
because you just opened it here and you closed it there.
Okay, so it's open
Opened
right
it
before
here,
the variable.
They closed it here, yeah.
Okay.
They're open and closed, right? Because here's what it says. If you say if something, then you got to open a bracket, do whatever you want to do if that's true, and close the bracket. So the brackets and braces, both sides of those things. I think brackets are the square ones, I think.
Braces, those are called.
These are called braces, yeah.
Yeah.
Because so I think of it like somebody cranking down someone's teeth, you know. The teeth are never square, so that's to be a brace. And this is a greater than sign right here, greater than equal. Is that,
So, and is this part still in there, or
what?
this part on the side, is it still part of
Yeah,
this
it's
one?
still the same, it just produces that, that's all. Right.
Doesn't seem to be working over here.
Any other question about that? Let's go to the movies, okay? Those are the three things that we have to cover today. One of them is the if statement. The other one is the indexOf statement, okay, how you find a word in an expression. And the last thing is how to make it say it, how to speak it, synthesize it. Okay, that's all there is to today's class. Now, how you use